wobbly. Okay. Okay, camera. Okay, you got it. Maybe you don't got it. Oh gosh. Hi, and welcome to the start of my live stream in which everything that can go wrong will go wrong. And you can watch it live for free as I make a total ding dong out of myself. Come on, camera. Okay, what's happening? What's happening? It's like all the brackets loosened at once. Okay, I think we're better now. I am so sorry for anybody I just made extremely seasick doing that. Uh anyways, today I'm going to start on this picture. I'm going to start on the Poltergeist picture. I have now successfully seen both the original 80s movie and the newer 2015 version of the movie. And I decided that I think I'm going to go towards a monochromatic scheme. I know there is a lot of movie posters for both the old and the newer version of the movie that kind of plays with these blue tones because you've got that static from the TV and what all of that looks like. So I'm playing with these colors right here. So the top ones are my polychromos. And I just got a set of Pit Pastels. So these are the exact color match. So I've got the black, which is what, $1.99? And then the next darkest down is a dark indigo, which is a $1.57. And then, let's see, next one is what, helio reddish, which is $1.55. We've got the cobalt blue, which is $1.43. What is this one? Light ultramarine, $1.40, which is this one right here. And then, of course, the white, which is $1.01. Not that you can see that. That'll come into play later because I want to use acrylic and make the whole background black. I don't care if I lose the flowers at this point because I have an idea in my head that I want to do those glowing orbs that show up periodically throughout the movies. The flowers kind of conflict with that, so the whole thing is going to go black, which is why I've got the pastels, because I think the pastels will help me create this kind of glowing effect out of the TV and, of course, out of our lovely haunted being that is popping out of the TV and give a little glow to her face. So I'm actually going to start with this acrylic black. This is Mars Black from Chocola. It does have a light fastness, which I'm very thankful for because all of the Fiber Castell, both the Pit Pastels and the Polychromos, are known for their light fastness, and the Chocola has the same kind of rating. So if I wanted to, I could display this without worrying about some of it fading and changing color over time because of the light, but I'm not. Honestly, I just want to kind of keep it in here. Let's see. I need to move everything out of the way so that I don't create a huge, ginormous mess, but I'm probably gonna do that anyways. So yes, I want to start with the black because I think that'll just be easiest. I'm not gonna water down the black because I don't think it's necessary because I want to have that solid black color. Don't want to lose that. I think I want to have the black there. And I think if I water it down, we'll have some bleed through, and we don't want that. So I'm just going to start with that because I'm going to start with the tiny areas and slowly work my way out. I'm going to leave the black right there. of nerve-wracking going into some of these smaller areas. And it doesn't necessarily have to be perfect because I can fix it with my pencils. But part of me likes getting it right the first time. I will say I quite enjoyed both of the Poltergeist movies. This is the first time I have seen either of them. I did not grow up watching the original. It was a little before my time, though it did influence a lot of the horror movies I have watched since. I mean, I enjoyed the original simply because it had a feel for a lot of the movies that I've watched during that era. A lot of the Spielberg movies that I watched from there, you could definitely see the same kind of technologies, and it tickled me in a good way. Because, I mean, you can feel a little bit of Indiana Jones. You could feel a little bit of what would later be some of the Ghostbuster elements. But you also had some of those scenes that a lot of the newer horror movies play with as well. Even though I probably giggled through a good chunk of the movie. Now, the fun part about doing this as a monochromatic is the fact that you can kind of make it emulate either of the movies. And both at the same time. The horror movie, okay, so that one would probably have to be The Ring. The Ring and Sixth Sense probably be the two movies that kind of threw me headfirst into horror. It's probably why I love Asian dramas so much, especially Asian horror so much. Because after I saw, of course, the American version that came out of The Ring, I then kind of hunted back and learned about the origin in some of the original movies and how it was this big old thing. But The Sixth Sense probably even had a bigger deal because I love a good ghost story. And now that everybody knows the twist of The Sixth Sense and everybody tries to do the same kind of stunt with their movie and it's no longer, well, yeah, it was obvious kind of deal. But at the time, it was one of those movies like, wait, what? So I very much appreciate that. of course, in college is when the Paranormal Activity movies came out, which those ones I have enjoyed so much, though the last couple have gone a little weird on me. Not in a way I appreciate. But the first 3 or so I really, really like. But when I first saw it, I will admit, I found it online and I watched it online by myself, not realizing that I was watching the original cut of the movie and not the final theatrical cut of the movie. So when it was announced that there was going to be a second Paranormal Activity, I could not understand how they could continue the franchise, because at the end of the version that I had seen, everybody died. Micah was killed, and then I can't remember her name. I can always remember Micah because she screams it so many times throughout the movie. But the girl in the movie, she ends up getting killed by the police. So I'm like, how do you continue this? And it wasn't until I got my own copy of the movie and I watched it that I realized that she got away in the theater released version of it and not the film festival version of it. Let's see, I should probably do some of these up here. I'm probably going to lose a few of the blobs, but that's okay. I can go back and add them myself. The real question is, why do I always start in the middle of a picture and then think about the fact that I have to try and keep my hands out of wet paint? Excellent question. I know. Katie, thank you. I'm like, I don't remember her name. It's interesting what you grasp onto in a movie sometimes. No, I don't want to saturate any one spot too much. See, already with that black background, I feel like both the little girl and everything else is starting to stand out even more. Oh, Pet Cemetery. I watched Pet Cemetery at a sleepover. I will admit that some of it I had my eyes closed. This time I decided to use an angle brush because I thought it might help me cover things a little faster, but still get in those very tight areas. Now I'm also kind of doing this painted background look because it'll give the pastels a little more to hold on to, because it'll add a texture to the page. I kind of made that a little boxy, but I'll fix that when I get my colored pencils in. And we'll do the pastels last, just because of how they're going to smear without a fixative. And I don't want to worry about that between colors when I have to close this book. I really like how quickly you can cover a background with paint. Trying to make sure that I don't have globs of paint sitting in any one place for too long. So that's when you get kind of starting to seep through. We don't want that. I would at some point like to color the picture on the other side. Good morning. Maybe I'll get the Posca out at some point. Kind of mark out some of the floatiness that I'm coloring over. So as you can see, we're not really bleeding through. Now, this is acrylic, so there's not a lot of water in acrylic paint, which is why this works. If I were to, say, thin this acrylic out to make it a little bit more translucent, add some water to do that, I'd start to have some issues painting the background like this. But because I'm just doing straight acrylic and I'm being very light about it, I'm not going over the same area repeatedly, I can get away with painting this background and not having to worry about bleed through. Which means I can cover this very quickly in black and not have to stress out about it trying to do it with, say, colored pencil. Now, I would not be able to get away with this if I was using watercolor. But if I were, see, some of this is still wet over here, and if I were to go over that spot again, I'd start to oversaturate that paper, and that's when you'd have to worry about bleeding through. But I'm not letting clumps of paint sit in any one spot. I'm making sure it's pushed out, which also helps because you don't have a wet mass sitting at a single spot. And I'm avoiding getting too much paint on my brush at once so that I do have control and I'm not worrying about ruining that picture on the other side. Oh, goodness, that's too much. I always hold my breath when I get into those small parts. Okay. Got a little bit on her hair. But we'll fix that when I go in with colored pencil. Plus, that's the back of her head, so that's going to be a little bit darker anyways because it's doesn't have the light from the TV screen. I'm going to take away some of the brush strokes. But I don't think I'll be able to be extremely perfectionistic about it. Doing so well too. Not putting my hand in wet paint. I suppose it was inevitably going to happen at some point. I have never been a clean painter. So I think I can switch to the big brush. So I have two sizes. I don't know if I want to go super big because I don't know if I'm going to have the control I want. I might start out with it. I guess we could try it, but I've got two different sizes of just flat, bigger brushes that I can play with. Definitely gonna have to put more black paint down if I use this bigger one, which I think I'll use the big one as far as I can, and then maybe use the smaller one when I get closer to this edge over here. So I've got more control, and so I don't accidentally paint the picture on the other side. But like I said, that means more paint. Now, one thing that will happen is you will start to get a slight curl. Like I said, I'm trying not to put too much paint down all at once. But I think I might have to get a little more aggressive with it. I actually want to start covering the page. And it might be one of those things where I need to sit and let it dry for a little bit, and then any of the holes come back and fill in. See, yeah, that's about how quickly you go through paint when you got a bigger brush. Oops. And that was precisely what I was trying to avoid. Okay, hold on. I gotta see if I can keep that from setting. Well, it's in the grooves, so... Okay. Got too excited. So a lot of times I'm painting with a very dry brush. And I don't think I want to go all the way to the seam. Oh, and of course I just got paint on my shirt. Oh goodness. For the girl in the TV and the otherworldly being, I'm gonna use my colored pencils. But then for the glow and everything in the background that I am painting right now, I'm going to use my pastel pencils. So that I could get some of that glow. Oops, I don't think I can get any paint on that. No, it's not wet, but it's not dry. It's at that interesting tacky phase. Which is why I feel okay going back and hitting some of those spots that are a little too thin. Now, one thing that does kind of happen when you paint like this is that along the edges, you can see the paint kind of folding over from the top onto the other page. And I'll show you kind of what I mean when I get done with this. But I'm okay with that. I can work with that. Not too worried about it. And like I said, this part doesn't have to be perfect, but part of me is like, I've got a little more paint and I can't necessarily put it back in the tube. So let me make this as solid as I can. Before I start the next part. Went over a line I didn't want to go over. Can fix it with the pencil. Pencil can go over this, so we'll be okay. Right now the page isn't curling too bad. Okay. I think we are good. Only got a little bit of paint on my hands and a little bit of paint on my shirt. Good thing I wore an old shirt. Okay, so I'll kind of show you. So you can kind of see on the edge right there where you got a little bit of splotches of where the paint came through, but otherwise, let's see if I can actually get this on screen. I don't want to flip it all the way over and get paint on the other picture. Otherwise, we don't have any bleed through. This was already on the picture in the coloring book. So we now have a nice, solid black background that we can use as a base for the rest of the picture. Now I'm gonna wait for this to to dry a little bit. You don't want to hit it quite yet. It's still a little bit tacky. What I was gonna do is use some of the paint on my color swatch here so I can then go over and test the colors on the black. Perfect. So just like flap this around for a bit and get it dry. And then I don't necessarily need this in here anymore. Move that out of the way. Ooh, I like the contrast that it ends up getting when you see it on camera. It's very stark right now. Bring my colors down. Just weaving, weaving and about. It's the only thing about this. I don't know how much more of this we're gonna get done today because I gotta let this dry. I don't want to necessarily mess that up, but I will show you what the colors are gonna look like on black on my color swatch page. But I think on my last picture, on the Halloween picture we did last year, let's see if I can find it. Goodness, it's right there. On this picture, it's like I moved all those over and then I'm like, here, look at this picture. On this picture, I actually did it slightly different than I did this picture. I used acrylic on the background on this one too, but I ended up coloring the cat and the pumpkin first. And then I painted around it, and there was some complications in doing that I didn't want to necessarily fall into this year, which is why I decided to do the background first. As for, okay, so what I kind of want to happen on this picture is it's okay if some of the picture ends up fading into the black. That's kind of how, let's see if I can get the pictures up. If I can kind of show you what I'm thinking about here. So, see this picture here? This is from the newer movie. We've got that black background and some of her hair starts to fade into that back. I'm okay with that happening here at the back of her head. Maybe we can get some of those hairs wisping. We can get some of those lighter colors on the black and then get some of the black back to create some of that effect. So I think it'll work out the way I want it to work. I'm also using this picture right here, this original picture, as a base. So even you have some softer edges that you can get with some of those like lighter blues and the whites that I'm hoping to use in this picture. So you can get some things to stand out really sharply, but some things to kind of soften around the edges and fade into the background, but just because of how the picture is set up with the light really coming from the TV and from the entity above the TV, and how that kind of is reflected off of the girl and maybe some of the orbs we add in. So that's a little bit of my thought process. Those are kind of my two base pictures, which is why I said I'm kind of basing this off of both movies. So that's where my brain is kind of at. Let's see, is this dry yet? No, it's still a little tacky. We'll just fling that around a little bit more. It's a nice sound. I don't know if you guys can hear that. But yeah, after I get this color swatching done, might have to end it here for today, simply because this needs to sit a little while. Granted, that took me a whole hour to do that background, so that's not too bad. Okay. See, I can't tell if that's coming from this paint or if that's the paint I already had on my fingers. Yeah, it's still a little tacky. We're getting there, though. Probably should have painted this swatch card before I started painting the rest of the pictures so that this had time to dry while I was painting the background. But yes, these are the colors I'm hoping to use in the picture. I want to create that static effect in the TV screen. I'm not entirely sure how I'm going to accomplish that with colored pencils. I might have to color it kind of pixel-like, where I've got some dark dots going on with some of the neon-y style blue, with some of the lighter, maybe whites and things interdone with them. So that's gonna be an interesting project. I think I'm safe. I'm gonna start with, okay, so some of this is gonna seem silly, especially when I go black over black, but I still kind of want to do it. But like I said, you can't really see anything. Let me zoom in here for you, so you know what I'm working with. Can't really see the black on the black, which makes sense. And of course, this is the dark indigo. Can't really see that either. This is going to be the Helios. I think, like I said, this is the polychromos. I'm not really expecting these to work too well on the acrylic. It's really the pastels that I think are going to stand out. So you can kind of start to see, this one is, what, the cobalt blue? You can't see it on screen, but I can see it in front of me. This is the light ultramarine. Yeah, I think there's too much plasticiness for the colored pencils to really hold on to, which, like I said, is why I grabbed the pastels. Can I get a little bit of that white? I think it's these pastels. I'm starting out with the black again, which doesn't make a lot of sense, but I think you can use the pastels to really fill in some of those parts on the background where it's not quite the texture that I want. This is what? This is the dark indigo? Now, I don't know if you guys can see this, but I can definitely see it. It's probably hard to see on screen. I'm not gonna lie. We've got, oh, what's this one? This one is the Helios, the Helio blue reddish, whatever. What was I calling it before? The Helios red? Okay, you still can't see that. I can see that though. And I might try and hold it up to make you see it too. This one I believe is the cobalt blue. There you go. That you can start seeing on screen. So that's going to be really fun to play with on the background. And this one is the light ultramarine. So even more of that blue. Ooh, that's going to be fun to play with. And then we've got the white. So I think it's going to be primarily these last three. That I'm going to use. Oh, look at that. For how I'm going to, hold on. Get some of that pastel dust off. Those last three that I'm going to mainly use. Let's see if I can get that in focus. Focus? No, you don't want to focus. This is about as far as I can hold it. You can, if I kind of, oh goodness, let's see if I can, dear camera, please focus. This is why I have the autofocus off most of the time. So if I twist it a little bit, you can kind of see some of the darker blues, that helio blue reddish and the dark indigo and then the black. And then you can kind of see where I tried to color with the polychromos. So these are going to be fun to play with, especially since I can take my finger and I can kind of smear. And so I can create kind of that glowy weirdness before I put a fixative down to make sure that those pastels don't move. But I think that is going to be, I don't want to zoom more in. It's going to be fun to play with, getting some of these on this dark background. Because before we go, I can kind of explain a little bit of what I want to do on this page, since I don't want to, I don't really want to touch the rest of it. So like I said, I want to use some of these last three to create some orbs, of course, to get some of these blobs that are coming out of this entity here and extend out. I'm going to get some wisp of her hair, that the glowing effects I want to do with some of these pastels as well, so that, yeah, we really do get that kind of ethereal, odd look. Because I mean, we've got some wispies coming out of that TV, not just the glow of the TV on the 2015 version. But even on this one, on the what was it? The movie came out, what, 82? I think it was 82 or somewhere in there. See a little teddy bear. So this was definitely the original influence of her drawing. So I do want to stay true to this, but I do want the influence of the 2015 and how the hands are in the 2015 version. I really, really like that. Since the hand is, hands are on the original picture. So, like I said, glomming these two together, I think it's going to look fun. I don't know. What are your guys' thoughts on the concept that I'm running with? Is this how you guys would do this picture? I think it's going to be fun. I'm going to actually end the stream here for today. I know it doesn't look like we've done much, but I really do need to let this page dry. I don't want to push it too far today. But we will start to get into the serious meat of this picture next time. I'll be starting in on coloring her and the television and Teddy and all of this, and deciding how all of that is going to start to go. I'm excited to see where this picture goes. I'm glad I decided to paint out those flowers. I think the flowers were making it a little too whimsical for my nature. I know this is a cute and creepy coloring book, but I want it to lean a little more on the creepy because she is adorable and I want her to be the adorableness of the picture and the rest of it just to be fighting her adorableness. Kind of like the movie. It's all about the movie. So I want to thank each and every one of you guys for joining me today and hanging out as I just babbled endlessly about these Poltergeist movies. I haven't seen the continuation of the series. I've only seen the original Poltergeist and the remake. Don't know if I want to see 2 or 3. Let me know in the comments or in the chat if you suggest whether or not I should actually continue on with the Poltergeist franchise, what your experience with the Poltergeist franchise is, and of course, if you like the direction I'm going with this page, or if you don't, how you would handle this page, if there are some things that you would do different. I would love to hear your thoughts. Otherwise, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your weekend. It is beautiful out today for us. So we're probably going to go do some stuff out in the yard. But I hope you guys have some relaxing plans for the rest of the day. I hope to see you guys back next weekend, same time, same place, 11 Central, my channel. And I heart your beautiful faces. Bye.